Do you remember when you found out you were going to be a dad, what began happening inside of you? Did you know you had what it took to be a good dad? Because you're a great dad.
Never thought about it like that. It just was what it was.
Yeah.
I did what I had observed with my parents. I was blessed with wonderful parents.
Yeah.
And I lived by their example, I guess.
Yeah.
And I watched other people around us. Some of our age mates were having children also at the same era, and we watched them and observed them, and we talked back and forth about how to discipline our children and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it was a very interesting time of life.
One of the things that's true about parenting, I think it's like the hardest job I've ever had. And I think one of the things that makes it hard is when your kids suffer, when your kids struggle. And I've suffered plenty, and you've watched a lot of that. And so I wonder, Dad, if you could talk a little bit about what it means to trust God, because church has been a part of our life, my whole life, your whole life. I mean, you grew up in the church. What is it like to trust God and watch your kids struggle?
I think that you really have to dig down when something bad happens in your family or to your kids or to your spouse, and you have to decide what's really important. When we were diagnosed with Hodgkin's at 15, we weren't sure where that was going. We didn't know much about it at that time. If you had been diagnosed 2 years earlier, you probably would have died from the disease. But in that interim, we were fortunate enough that they came up with a cure, which has remained in place to this date. But I can remember well thinking and saying, I think to you, I know your mom and I talked about it, that this kid was in God's hands before she got here. She's in God's hands now, and she will be after this life is over. But that doesn't make it easy in the interim.
When were you tempted to take over the reins? Like, when were you tempted to say?
Every day.
What did that look like, though?
I'm not sure that there was ever a time when I wasn't trying to control the treatment, timing, control who was in charge, make sure I knew who was doing what. And I don't know how unusual it is for parents because I don't have anything to judge it by.
Right.
But it wasn't that we didn't trust, and we firmly believed that God's plan was in place. But that doesn't mean we didn't have a responsibility to do everything that we could do to implement God's plan, as it were.
Yeah.
To make sure that we didn't leave things undone that needed to be done. But we still trusted that it would come out right.
Yeah.
We didn't know how it was going to come out. And that's true of a whole lot of things in life. You don't know how the tough issues are going to resolve. But all you can do is your very best. I can't imagine how people without faith get through really, really hard times. I just can't imagine how they do it.
Yeah.
Because if all you've got is the moment, this moment in life, it seems it can be awfully empty and awfully, awfully difficult.
Yeah. But I think, like, even the struggle that I went through, that was allowed to happen in our family through my physical stuff. I wonder what that taught you about yourself and about your faith.
Well, it taught me I can't fix everything. It taught me that I had to trust in God and His plan because there wasn't much alternative.
Yeah.
And I had grown up as a person of faith in a family of faith. And while we talk what I've always called Sunday school talk about God's in control and I trust God in everything and I'll turn it over to the Lord, it's a whole different thing when your feet are in the middle of the pond and you have to either fish or cut bait. It's very difficult to say, okay, God, however this turns out, it's okay with me. That is really tough. I can talk about it and it's easy, but when I'm living it, it's much more difficult. So you have taught me, your life struggles have taught me and your mom that we can't fix everything, that we have to trust that it's going to turn out okay. So far for us it has, but for all families it doesn't turn out okay.
Right.
Sometimes there are bad endings, often are bad endings that you have to somehow figure out how to live with. I can remember telling your mom, I wonder if I'll ever go to bed without a bowling ball in my stomach. It was very difficult, but we were people of faith and we tried our best to live our faith so we weren't overwhelmed by all of that.
I tell you this a lot, so this is not news to you, but I have felt my whole life that every girl deserves to have a dad like you.
Well, I'm honored to have a kid like you.
So thanks.
So we're jointly honored.